The Lost Ones. 3 little-known true crime stories of missing children. Welcome to Truth and Consequences, where we explore the darker side of humanity and the real-life stories that shape our world. In this episode, we'll be taking a closer look at 3 heart-wrenching cases of missing children that you may not heard of before. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and let's dive into the first case of Malin Olsson. Malin Olsson was a 16-year-old girl who traveled to Gothenburg with a friend in Härryda. After an argument, Malin left the group and walked away alone in the night. Witnesses saw Malin walk through Stampen, an area in central Gothenburg, in the direction of Östra graveyard. Malin's body was found the next morning, naked and strangled next to a gravestone in the graveyard. The police found a leather belt next to Malin's body, which they believe belongs to the killer. They also found a print on the gravestone where Malin was found that matches a print on a bicycle. Several witnesses heard screams from the graveyard around 1:40 a.m., but did not report it at the time. After the murder, the killer sat down on a park bench in the graveyard and looked through photographs from Malin's wallet. The police were able to follow the killer's route out of the graveyard and in the surrounding area via the photos that they left in different locations in the area. Despite the passage of time, the case remains unsolved. The police believe that the killer was very familiar with the area, so it was likely a local. There are many odd things about this case, such as why her friends let a 16-year-old girl walk away on her own in the middle of the night and why they did not report her missing when she didn't return to the group. Over 25 years have passed since Malin Olsson was murdered in Gothenburg. The police cold case group investigates the murder, and the first step is to get the killer's DNA. Malin's clothing and other interesting items from the crime scene are now being analyzed at NFC, the National Forensic Center. The hope is that the killer has left DNA traces behind them, and that they should be able to find them with new technology. In anticipation of answers, the police have made so-called summits in the past year. This is to collect DNA from different people, which you can then compare with a possible answer from NFC. A man was arrested for the murder in September 1994, but about 2 days later he was released after questioning and house search. He is the only one who has been formally suspected in the investigation. The case of Malin Olsson's murder remains unsolved, but the investigation continues. The hope is that with new technology, the police will be able to find DNA evidence that can help solve the case. We can only hope that justice will be served for Malin and her family. Our next case takes us to a different part of the world, but the circumstances are just as disturbing. We will talk about the unsolved disappearance of Kyllikki Saari, a 17-year-old Finnish girl who vanished without a trace in 1953. This is a true story that has remained a mystery for over half a century, despite extensive investigation and numerous theories. Kyllikki Saari was a young and vivacious girl who lived in a small village in Finland. She loved the outdoors and often went on long walks in the nearby forest, where she would pick berries and mushrooms. On the evening of May 17, 1953, Kyllikki told her family that she was going for a walk and would be back soon. However, she never returned. The next day, Kyllikki's bicycle was found abandoned in a dirt road in the forest. The police were notified, and an extensive search was carried out, involving hundreds of volunteers and even the Finnish army. Despite their efforts, no trace of Kyllikki was found. Weeks turned into months, and months turned into years, but Kyllikki's disappearance remained a mystery. Several leads were followed, including a suspect who had a history of sexual crimes, but no conclusive evidence was found. The case was officially closed in 2004. One theory is that Kyllikki was abducted and murdered by a stranger who was passing through the area. Others suggest that she might have fallen victim to a local serial killer or been the victim of a crime of passion. However, there is no concrete evidence to support any of these theories. The disappearance of Kyllikki Saari has haunted Finland for decades. Her story has inspired books, movies, and TV series, but the truth behind her vanishing remains a mystery. Perhaps one day, the truth will be uncovered and justice will be served. And finally, we come to our last case, which has remained a mystery for years. This is the tragic story of Pedro Teixeira Mendoza, a Portuguese child who went missing on March 4, 1998 in Lusada, Portugal. Pedro was only 11 years old when he disappeared, and his case remains unsolved to this day. On March 4, 1998, around 2 p.m., Pedro took his bicycle and cycled to his mother's workplace, located near the family home. He asked his mother for permission to spend the afternoon riding in a car with his friend Alfonso Diaz, aged 22. Pedro's mother denied the request and told him to go play in an abandoned lot outside her office. As the afternoon went on, Pedro's tutor called his parents because the child had not turned up for his 5 p.m. lesson, and they quickly initiated a search for him. Because Pedro has told his mother that he was planning to meet up with his friend Alfonso, the police questioned him. Alfonso Diaz was emotional while being questioned, and simply replied that he did not know the boy's whereabouts, but the police should close the borders. The investigation into the child's disappearance slowed down due to the lack of credible leads. Nevertheless, the case had sparked public interest to a degree that sightings of Pedro were numerous over the years since his disappearance. The prostitute Alcina Diaz confirmed that Alfonso Diaz had taken Pedro to see her on the day he disappeared. Alfonso allegedly drove up to see her in his car and asked her if she was working. When she assented, he offered to pay her to have sex with Pedro. Alcina Diaz said that Pedro was extremely nervous and crying by the time he exited the vehicle, reportedly saying that Alfonso had forced him to meet her. Alcina Diaz added that she tried to calm the boy down and asked him if his mother knew he was there, to which the boy replied no. Pedro then allegedly drove off in Alfonso Diaz's vehicle. Alcina Diaz allegedly tried to give her deposition to the authorities, but could never identify Alfonso Diaz by name. In 2011, she finally identified him in a court of law. In April 1998, the political commentator Nuno Rogero traveled to Disneyland Paris with his family. During the trip, the Rogero family snapped several photographs whilst on a ride. On these photos depicts a boy sitting behind the family who reportedly looks remarkably like Pedro. Sat beside the boy is a man in his 40s wearing a red jacket. The Portuguese police did confiscate the photographs for further analysis, but no further progress was made regarding the sighting. Media coverage of the case was extensive, and the story has remained in the public eye for over 2 decades.
Lembra-se dos últimos anos com o seu filho?
As noites de Natal,
As festas de aniversário,
as passagens de ano,
as férias de verão,
os inícios de aulas.
os invernos e verões.
Foram dias cheios de acontecimentos.
Foram anos de novidades, de surpresas, gargalhadas e travessuras.
Lembra-se dos últimos anos com o seu filho?
Eu não. Pedro hoje faz 27 anos. Não o vejo desde os 11. Nunca vou desistir de o procurar.
Se tiver alguma informação que possa ajudar a encontrar o Rui Pedro, por favor, diga-nos.
Nunca é tarde para ajudar. Foi o filho da Filomena, mas podia ter sido o seu.
Há ainda em Portugal mais de 60 crianças e menores desaparecidos. São traficadas para exploração sexual todos os anos mais de 3 milhões de crianças. O tráfico verifica-se em todos os países do mundo e está a aumentar.
October 2014, Alfonso Diaz was sentenced to 3 years in prison for the abduction of the minor during the afternoon of his disappearance, and not for the disappearance itself. On March 18, 2015, Alfonso Diaz was taken to prison by his lawyer after the warrant of his detention was issued by the police. The tragic story of Pedro Teixeira Mendoza remains unsolved to this day, and his family continues to search for answers. The case has sparked public outrage and has become one of the most well-known cases of child abduction in Portugal. That's all for today's episode of Truth and Consequences. We hope you found these stories informative and thought-provoking. If you have any information about these cases, or any other missing persons, please contact the authorities. Thanks for listening and join us next time.